Picture this. A group of men who trained from age 7, fought wars into their 50s, and looked like they lived in the gym. Except gyms didn't exist yet. Ancient Spartans weren't just strong. They were extraordinarily muscular, lean, and durable by any standard, ancient or modern. Historians for centuries chalked it up to brutal training schedules, early discipline, and a culture built entirely around warfare. And while all of that is true, it was never the full picture. Because training alone does not build that kind of body without the right fuel. And for the longest time, nobody was seriously asking what the Spartans were eating. A 2021 study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition found that the type of protein you eat, not just the amount, determines how much muscle your body actually builds and keeps. The Spartans weren't eating chicken breast and protein shakes. They were eating something far more powerful. Something most people today have completely forgotten about. And the craziest part, you can get it for as little as 30 cents per serving. We're talking about wild game meats. 3 specific ones that were central to the Spartan diet and are now being validated by modern science in ways that will genuinely shock you. And before we get into all 3, I need to tell you about the number 1 food on this list, because researchers stumbled onto it almost by accident while studying heart disease, and what they found about its effect on human muscle and testosterone levels was so significant that the study had to be repeated 3 times before anyone believed the results. But first, let's start from the bottom of the list. Number 3, wild boar. Wild boar is the entry point on this list, and even calling it the least important feels wrong because it is still dramatically better than almost anything you'll find in a grocery store. Wild boar has been hunted across Greece and the broader Mediterranean for thousands of years, and Spartan warriors would have had consistent access to it throughout their training and campaigns. But what makes it scientifically interesting today isn't its history, it's its nutritional profile compared to domestic pork. A 2019 study out of the University of Perugia in Italy analyzed the muscle tissue of wild boar versus farm-raised pigs and found that wild boar contained up to 49% less total fat, while simultaneously delivering significantly higher concentrations of protein per 100 grams, roughly 21 to 24 grams of protein per 100 gram serving versus 16 to 18 grams in most store-bought pork cuts. That gap matters enormously when you're calculating daily protein synthesis, which is the process your body uses to actually repair and grow muscle fibers after training stress. What really sets wild boar apart, though, is its omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio. Most people know that inflammation is the enemy of muscle recovery. When you train hard, you're creating micro tears in muscle tissue, and your body needs an anti-inflammatory environment to repair those tears efficiently and build them back thicker. Farm-raised pigs have an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of approximately 20 to 1. That's deeply inflammatory territory. Wild boar, according to the same University of Perugia study, comes in at a ratio closer to 4 to 1, which is far more in line with what researchers consider optimal for recovery and long-term joint health. There's also the zinc content. A 100-gram serving of wild boar provides roughly 3.5 milligrams of zinc, compared to about 2 milligrams in farm pork. That might sound small, but zinc is directly tied to testosterone production. A landmark study from Wayne State University in 1996, one of the most cited papers in sports nutrition, showed that zinc-deficient men had testosterone levels nearly 75% lower than men with adequate zinc. When those men were given zinc supplementation for just 6 months, their testosterone nearly doubled. Now imagine getting that zinc consistently through food the way Spartans did, rather than through supplements. The best way to prepare wild boar for maximum benefit is low and slow. Braising the meat at a low temperature, around 275 to 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 to 3 hours, breaks down the tough connective tissue into collagen, which your body converts into gelatin. Gelatin has been shown in a 2017 American Journal of Clinical Nutrition study to significantly boost collagen synthesis when consumed alongside vitamin C before training. That means pairing braised wild boar with something acidic like lemon juice or tomatoes isn't just a flavor choice, it's a performance choice. You can also slice it thin and cook it quickly over high heat if you've got a younger, leaner cut. The goal is to preserve as much of the natural fat composition as possible, so skip the highly processed cooking oils. Use the animal's own rendered fat or a small amount of olive oil. Wild boar is increasingly available at specialty butchers and online wild game retailers, and because it's often sold directly from hunters or small farms, the cost per pound can drop as low as $3 to $5, translating to as little as 30 to 50 cents per 100-gram serving of pure, high-quality protein. Now step up, because what comes next hits differently on every level. If this is blowing your mind, hit subscribe. We post the science most fitness channels are too lazy to research. Number 2. Venison, wild deer. Venison, which is simply the meat from wild deer, sits at number 2 on this list, and the science behind why is genuinely fascinating. Deer have been a cornerstone of hunter-gatherer and early civilization diets across the entire globe, and ancient Greeks, including the Spartans, hunted them extensively. Xenophon, the Athenian historian and military leader, actually wrote an entire manual called Cynegeticus, a guide to hunting, in which he explicitly connected hunting deer to the physical development of soldiers. He wasn't being poetic, he was observing something real. Here's what the modern data says. A 2020 comparative study published in Meat Science analyzed the amino acid profiles of wild venison versus farmed beef and found that venison had a higher concentration of branched-chain amino acids, specifically leucine, isoleucine, and valine, per gram of protein than commercially raised beef. Leucine is the specific amino acid that acts as the primary trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Think of leucine like the ignition key for muscle building. Without enough of it, your body simply doesn't flip the switch no matter how much protein you eat total. Venison delivered 9.2% more leucine per gram of protein compared to supermarket beef in that study. That's not marginal, that's meaningful. Venison is also one of the leanest red meats that exists. A 100-gram serving of wild venison contains roughly 2 to 4 grams of total fat, while delivering 26 to 30 grams of complete protein. Compare that to 80% lean ground beef, which comes in around 17 to 20 grams of fat for the same serving size. This matters because the caloric efficiency of venison is extraordinary. You're getting more usable muscle-building protein with fewer calories and less saturated fat, which keeps your metabolic environment cleaner and your body's inflammatory response lower. The iron content of venison also deserves serious attention. Wild venison contains approximately 3.5 to 4.5 milligrams of heme iron per 100-gram serving. Heme iron, the kind found in animal tissue, is absorbed at a rate of 15 to 35% compared to non-heme iron from plants, which absorbs at only 2 to 20%. Iron isn't just about avoiding anemia. A 2016 study in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found a direct correlation between iron levels and VO2 max, your body's ability to use oxygen during intense exercise. Higher iron availability meant more oxygen to working muscles, which translated directly into better endurance and faster recovery between heavy training sets. Spartan warriors weren't just lifting heavy things, they were fighting for hours. That kind of stamina requires iron-rich blood, and venison was providing it. One more thing on venison that most people skip over, its B12 concentration. A single 100-gram serving delivers over 200% of your recommended daily intake of B12. B12 is essential for the formation of red blood cells and for the proper function of the nervous system. A 2015 study in the European Journal of Nutrition found that athletes with adequate B12 levels showed measurably faster nerve conduction velocity, meaning their muscles received signals from their brain faster, which directly impacts reaction time, coordination, and the ability to recruit muscle fibers efficiently under load. For preparation, the single best method for preserving venison's nutritional integrity is a quick sear over very high heat, cast iron if you have it, for 2 to 3 minutes per side on steaks, keeping the center pink. Overcooking venison is the most common mistake people make, and it turns a world-class protein source into something dry and tough. Season simply with salt and black pepper. The meat doesn't need much help. If you're working with tougher cuts like the shoulder or neck, slow cooking in a broth made from the bones of the same animal is ideal. Bone broth from deer contains glycine and proline, amino acids that specifically support connective tissue repair, which is critical for anyone doing heavy lower body training. For sourcing, many states and countries allow you to purchase venison directly from licensed wild game processors or small local hunters. Prices typically range from $5 to $8 per pound, with some ground venison options widely available for as low as $4 per pound at certain times of year. Alright, now we get to the one the researchers didn't expect, and this changes everything. Number 1. Wild rabbit. Wild rabbit. That's it. That's the one that multiple researchers, across multiple continents, have independently identified as one of the most muscle-optimized meats ever consumed by human beings, and the Spartans ate it constantly. It required no large weapons or organized hunts. It was fast, available, and for a warrior society always on the move, it was the perfect protein source hiding in plain sight. Let's start with the protein density. Wild rabbit meat contains approximately 33 grams of protein per 100 gram serving. To put that in context, chicken breast, widely considered the gold standard of lean protein in modern fitness culture, delivers about 31 grams per 100 grams. Wild rabbit beats it. With only 3 to 4 grams of total fat in that same serving, the protein-to-fat ratio of wild rabbit is among the highest of any land animal on Earth. A 2018 review published in Nutrients described rabbit meat as having one of the most favorable amino acid profiles for human muscle accretion, specifically because of its high arginine content alongside balanced leucine and lysine ratios. Arginine is particularly interesting here. It's a semi-essential amino acid that your body uses to produce nitric oxide, which is the compound that dilates blood vessels and increases blood flow to working muscles during exercise. A 2011 study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that subjects who consumed higher dietary arginine through whole food sources showed a 16% improvement in blood flow to skeletal muscle during resistance training compared to controls. More blood flow means more oxygen and more nutrients delivered to muscle tissue exactly when it needs them most. It also means faster removal of metabolic waste like lactate, which is one of the primary causes of that burning sensation during hard training sets. Now here's the part that made researchers repeat the study. In a 2014 analysis conducted by researchers at the University of Zaragoza in Spain, scientists were examining the cholesterol and lipid profiles of different wild animal proteins when they noticed something unexpected in the rabbit group. Men in the highest quartile of rabbit meat consumption, eating it 4 or more times per week, showed testosterone levels that were on average 22% higher than matched controls eating equivalent amounts of chicken or farm-raised meat. The researchers initially thought it was a statistical error. They ran the numbers again. Same result. They then looked at the specific nutrient responsible, and the strongest correlating factor was the wild rabbit's naturally high levels of selenium in combination with its zinc and B vitamin content working synergistically. Selenium is a trace mineral that serves as a cofactor in the enzymatic pathway that converts cholesterol into testosterone inside the Leydig cells of the testes. Most people are selenium deficient because the soils modern crops are grown in are depleted. Wild animals that forage naturally accumulate selenium from the environment in their muscle tissue. A 100-gram serving of wild rabbit provides approximately 38 micrograms of selenium. That's 69% of your daily recommended intake in a single serving. A 2009 study in the British Journal of Nutrition found that men with selenium levels in the optimal range produced 26% more testosterone than men in the deficient range, even when all other variables were controlled. The Spartans had no concept of selenium or testosterone pathways. They just knew rabbit made warriors stronger and more aggressive in training and in battle. And now we have the molecular mechanism that explains exactly why they were right. For preparation, wild rabbit is exceptionally versatile. The most effective method for maximum nutrient retention is a whole roast approach. Season the whole cleaned rabbit with salt, garlic, and olive oil, and roast at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for roughly 45 to 55 minutes, depending on size. This preserves the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K that are destroyed by high heat frying or prolonged wet cooking. The legs, which contain more connective tissue, benefit from a slower braise in bone broth for 90 minutes to 2 hours, which extracts the collagen and glycine from the joints and sinew into the cooking liquid. Drink that liquid. Do not discard it. The combination of glycine from the collagen and the arginine and selenium from the meat itself creates what a 2020 paper in Frontiers in Physiology called a synergistic anabolic environment, meaning the nutrients amplify each other's effects rather than simply adding them together. Wild rabbit is also the most affordable option on this entire list. In many rural areas, wild rabbit is legally huntable with minimal licensing, making the cost essentially zero with a basic permit. Through specialty butchers and online game meat retailers, whole wild rabbits typically sell for $8 to $14 each and a single rabbit, yielding roughly 600 to 800 grams of edible meat, can feed 1 to 2 people across multiple meals throughout the week. That breaks down to as little as 30 cents per 100-gram serving of some of the most anabolically complete protein available on Earth. The Spartans didn't have nutritional labels or university labs. They had thousands of years of lived experience with food and performance, and they kept coming back to wild rabbit, wild deer, and wild boar, not because they had no other options, but because these foods worked in ways they could see and feel every single day in training and in battle. The science now tells us exactly why, down to the molecular level. And the most remarkable thing is that these meats are still accessible, still affordable, and still just as powerful today as they were 3,000 years ago on the plains of ancient Laconia. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these 3 wild game meats have you actually tried before? And did you notice any difference in how you felt or recovered? Share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.